We're in one of those moments, aren't we? One of those moments that we'll probably tell our kids, grandkids, great-grandkids about. Let me tell you about COVID-19, spring 2020, and the great toilet paper drought. Our lives are made of moments, of stories, those moments in our lives that define us, that we use to communicate, to tell who we are and what we've experienced. I love sharing stories, big moments from my life. Like when I first gained the courage to introduce myself to my now wife, Julie, and had that chance to first say hi. I can still very clearly remember the words. So, you're Julie, right? Yeah, you're Justin, right? Romance. Or another moment in my life when some college friends and I decided to go to Letchworth State Park and drop this giant pumpkin that we had off of a train bridge. I love telling that story. I love sharing how that giant pumpkin got smaller and smaller and smaller and smaller until it seemed like it couldn't get any smaller, and then finally, explosion. Not really a splash, much more of a pumpkin explosion happened. I love to share about our church, about how recently we remodeled our church sanctuary, and there are some wonderful stories there. For example, it started off during a sermon. I remember taking a sledgehammer and hitting one of our stage doors. I can remember that moment very clearly. Probably top of my mind is remembering many of your laughter at me and at my surprise when I didn't just hit the door, but the whole door came off its tracks and I was kind of stuck there, balancing sledgehammer door, not exactly sure what to do. That was a fun, awesome moment. So many stories. We have so many memories that are incredibly meaningful and valuable to us. Each and every one of us, we can remember funny situations, important moments, big memories. COVID-19 will for sure be another one for each and every one of us. Now, we can remember a lot of things, but the most important things that we hold on to are actually not the moments or the situations, but the people with whom we made them. Most of us have a little extra time right now on our hands. So this is a good time to think back. Who in your life has been a part of your story? Who has had an impact? Who has made a difference? Who will you always remember as someone who helped change your story? Even right now, during the coronavirus, who right now is a part of this story, this moment in your life? And then I encourage you to ask yourself another question that I think is of just as much value, if not more important for us. Whose story whose story will you be in? Because of my actions, because of my sacrifice, because of my love, whose story will I be a part of? Here during COVID-19, whose story will we be a part of? These past 3 weeks, we've studied the book of Ruth, and we've asked a simple question. Who is in front of you? Meaning, who in your life right now needs you? Who in your life can you impact with actions of grace and love that represent the love of Jesus Christ? Who is in front of you? Now, as you think about these people there in front of you, be honest. Will you be a part of their story? Will you be a part of their story? In our message today, we conclude the book of Ruth, and we're going to be looking at Ruth chapter 4, verses 1 to 17. Here we get to see how our actions can greatly influence others, can change lives, and can even impact the great stories of this world. Let's look here now in Ruth chapter 4. As we do this, let me give you a little backstory in case you're just joining us for the first time. This is at the end of the book of Ruth. And so we've gone through this journey with Ruth and with her family, specifically a lady named Naomi. It starts with Naomi. Naomi is from Bethlehem. And during a famine, Naomi and her family, they move away. They move to a foreign land. There, she loses her husband and her only 2 sons. And so she returns home to Bethlehem as this moment begins. And she's supported only by one of her daughters-in-law who stuck with her named Ruth. Naomi is in this moment, she says it in her own words, she is dark and she is bitter. And that's rightly so. But under Ruth's grace, she's starting to turn around. Naomi's heart is starting to turn around. Ruth has been providing for them both by working in a neighbor's field, a man named Boaz, who has been very kind to them. Boaz has provided for them, he has kept them safe, and he has treated them very well. In chapter 3, last week as we looked at chapter 3, we saw a situation that Naomi had set up to try to bring Ruth and Boaz together in marriage, where Ruth can then be cared for by Boaz and Naomi as well. Now, this all depends upon Boaz and if he will fulfill his role as their guardian redeemer. That is a legal term for someone who is supposed to redeem a family member who is in a difficult situation. It looks like Boaz will do this, but he has to go through the right steps first. This is where we find Boaz as chapter 4 begins. Chapter 4 of Ruth, verse 1. This is what it says. It says, "Meanwhile, Boaz went up to the town gate and sat down there just as the guardian redeemer he had mentioned came along. Boaz said, 'Come over here, my friend, and sit down.' So he went over and sat down. Boaz took 10 of the elders of the town and said, 'Sit here,' and they did so. Then he said to the guardian redeemer, 'Naomi, who has come back from Moab, is selling the piece of land that belonged to our relative Elimelech. I thought I should bring the matter to your attention and suggest that you buy it in the presence of these seated here and in the presence of the elders of my people. If you will redeem it, do so. But if you will not, tell me, so I will know. For no one has the right to do it except you, and I am next in line.' 'I will redeem it,' he said. Then Boaz said, 'On the day that you buy the land from Naomi, you also acquire Ruth the Moabite, the dead man's widow, in order to maintain the name of the dead with his property.' At this, the guardian redeemer said, 'Then I cannot redeem it, because I might endanger my own estate. You redeem it yourself. I cannot do it.'" In verse 7, we get a little clarification about kind of an interesting moment or tradition, custom at this time. It says, "Now in earlier times in Israel, for the redemption and transfer of property to become final, one party took off his sandal and gave it to the other. This was the method of legalizing transaction in Israel." Interesting. Verse 8, so it says this. It says, "So the guardian redeemer said to Boaz, 'Buy it yourself.' And he removed his sandal. Then Boaz announced to the elders and all the people, 'Today you are witnesses that I have bought from Naomi all the property of Elimelech, Kilion, and Mahlon. I have also acquired Ruth the Moabite, Mahlon's widow, as my wife, in order to maintain the name of the dead with his property, so that his name will not disappear from among his family or from his hometown. Today you are witnesses.' Then the elders and all the people at the gates said, 'We are witnesses. May the Lord make the woman who is coming into your home like Rachel and Leah, who together build up the family of Israel. May you have standing and be famous in Bethlehem. Through the offspring the Lord gives you by this young woman, may your family be like that of Perez, whom Tamar bore to Judah.'" And then verse 13, this brings this whole book to a close, and I encourage you to just see the difference that is made specifically in Naomi's heart. It says, "So Boaz took Ruth, and she became his wife. When he made love to her, the Lord enabled her to conceive, and she gave birth to a son. The woman said to Naomi, 'Praise be to the Lord, who this day has not left you without a guardian redeemer. May he become more famous throughout Israel. He will renew your life and sustain you in your old age. For your daughter-in-law, who loves you and who is better to you than 7 sons, has given him birth.' Then Naomi took the child in her arms and cared for him. The women living there said, 'Naomi has a son.' And they named him Obed. He was the father of Jesse, the father of David." I can remember very clearly wanting to propose to my now wife, Julie. I can remember wanting to make that marriage proposal, as hopefully most of us do in these moments. I wanted to make it something special, a special moment. To make the moment one that she would clearly remember. And I can remember wanting to make her and my story special. To do that, to do any of that, to make that story come true, it obviously meant doing it right. And so for me, that meant one very clear thing. It meant asking her father for permission ahead of time. I want to say that I want you to know that I struggle to put into words exactly how awkward this moment it was. We were in a van on a bread run, Julie's father and I. A bread run was a trip to a local bakery to pick up some unsold bread and deliver it to organizations and individuals who needed it, who would want it and use it. It's a great thing. But we were in this area of Massachusetts that I was very unfamiliar with, obviously connecting with people I did not know. And for some reason, I found myself driving. So get the full picture here. I am driving, not my vehicle, in an area I've never been before. I'm handing out bread to people that I don't know, trying to be in some way comfortable with all or any of that, all the while trying to bring up in conversation, "Hey, your daughter, I would really like to marry her." Everything that you think that situation was, it absolutely, positively, 100% was. But when you fall in love with someone, when we care about someone, when we want to be a part of someone's story, this is what it takes. Boaz in this passage, why is he doing any of this? And why with such clear intent? He wastes no time. He goes right into this situation. Why? I think the answer is pretty simple. Boaz cares for Ruth. In fact, if we're honest with ourselves and what we think is going on here, we'd probably say that Boaz is in love with Ruth. Ruth has really nothing to offer him in terms of finances. She has no money or valuables. There's some land involved here, but the way it looks is Boaz probably doesn't need that land. He's in great shape, and to acquire the land, there is going to be a cost to him. We're not told that Ruth is specifically beautiful or anything like that in any way, and we know that she's a foreigner, which in this time and custom, that would not have been something that would have been desired socially. We are told that she is of noble character, and people seem to know it, and maybe more than anyone else, who knows that? Boaz knows that. He knows the value of Ruth's heart, of who she is. And so she is close to his own heart. Boaz wants to be a part of her story. It seems clear that he wants to marry her, but it seems further clear that more important than any of that, he wants to be a part of her story and making sure that she is cared for, that she is provided for. So we ask ourselves, who is in front of you? Are you working to be a part of their story? To bring them the care that they need, no matter if it benefits you or not. In Matthew chapter 22, verses 36 to 40, Jesus gives us the great commandments. These are simple, clear, and meant for all of us in all situations. To love God and to love others. We have all been called to love, to care, and to be there for others. To put others before ourselves. Who is in front of you? Will you be like Boaz for them? Will you intentionally, actively, aggressively work for their good? Work for their good. Now, Boaz wants to do this right, and so there's this whole process with their laws and values and customs. Everything we see here in this process, this is a part of Boaz trying to do this right. He is meeting at the town gate. He gets these 10 elders along, and even to the point where there's this weird moment with the sandals. And if you have questions about the sandals, so do I. Do they exchange sandals? Does the person give them both sandals? Because it seems to me like they're just taking off one sandal and giving one sandal away. What do they now do as they both have these individual sandals? Do they give them back? Does the guy get to keep the sandals? Or do you just go around with one sandal from now on? And do you try to do other deals where you're like, well, I got a left sandal over here and a right sandal over here. I finally got a pair. So many questions, but we move on. Now, to do this the right way, Boaz knows that he's not the first one in the family line. He is not the first guardian redeemer. There is another who has the first right to the land and the opportunity to marry Ruth. And so he gives this other person the opportunity. For that individual, when it comes to the land, they are all in. But when it comes to marrying Ruth, not so much. See, with marrying Ruth, of course, there comes a risk. What risk? There's the risk possibly to their social standings. Ruth is a foreigner. She's unknown to most people, and so there's that risk. There's possibly the risk to wealth. Any children Ruth would have to be given inheritance and all of that process. It would divide up the wealth, and that would possibly threaten his own family if he has that already, and so we understand that. But probably the biggest threat would be to his name. If it is his responsibility to carry on to redeem Naomi's family's name first, what could happen to his own? His own name could potentially be lost. It is important that we all hear this, understand this, and know this. If you want to be a part of someone's story, someone in your family, a friend, someone there before you, if you want to be a part of their story, if you want to be in their story, if you want to impact their story for good, there is always a risk. There will be a sacrifice, and there must be an investment. That is what it takes to be a part of someone's story. In a story with lots of details and lots of moments included, it's interesting as we see this moment to recognize the things that we don't see. Think about this for a second. Now, first off, I understand there's a lot of details here, and we see that. For example, this whole sandal trading thing. Again, I can get so wrapped up into this moment. Why are they trading sandals? Where did this custom start? But we're not going to get wrapped up into that. But notice, with all of the details, notice the one detail we don't get. This person, this person who says no, this guardian redeemer who passes up this opportunity to be involved, to help. We never get his name. He's so worried about his own story, so worried about his own name. His own never makes it into this moment, into their story. We don't know his name. I would ask you this: who is in front of you? Are we so busy, so selfish, so self-focused on building our own stories that no one will remember ours? No one will remember our names. Our names will be forgotten. Who is in front of you? Will you be a part of their story? Will you be a part of their story? Right now, a story is being told. This is one of those moments. COVID-19 has provided a story for all of us. There is a story that needs right now happening all around us. Are you a part of that story? Are you investing in the people before you? Yes, we recognize we have to take care. We social distance, but if you have a phone, if you have a computer, if you have pen and paper, you have the opportunity to be in someone's story. There are hungry people right now, and maybe you can help with that. But there are many more people suffering from loneliness, darkness, and depression. Be a part of their story. Be a part of their story. Pick up your phone. Call your neighbors. Connect with your friends. Make sure that people are taken care of and that they are not alone. We know that right now, many of us, we have been given a whole lot of family time. I have a question for you. Are you trapped with your family, or are you blessed with your family? Would you say they have been trapped? Would they say that they have been trapped with you, or have they been blessed with you? Are you living a life worth including in someone's story? The truth is, this question, this message series, it's bigger than just the coronavirus, right? It's bigger than just this moment. Because this question is there for all of us to look at our lives and to ask ourselves that big question: are we a part of someone's story? It is there for us as parents. It is there for you if you are a step parent. Aunts and uncles, family, friends, neighbors, co-workers, classmates, to all of us, whatever our role, that question, that truth is there for us. Have we made the sacrifice, taken the steps to be a part of someone's story? For each and every one of us, we have that opportunity. I will tell you this: I can clearly remember all the people who have been a part of my story. I can remember them so clearly. I can remember the care of church members standing with me in difficult times. I feel the love of my siblings even when we're hundreds of miles apart. I see my father sacrifice, and I remember his daily desire to make me smile and to fill my life with meaning and joy, and how that shaped me. Every day I can hear my mother's conversations. Even though she has passed, I can hear her voice speaking to me. Those conversations that told me how to be a man, to be a Christian, to be a follower of Jesus Christ. The conversations that impacted my heart. And right now, I am experiencing the blessings of my wife, Julie. Her patience and care that sacrifices her needs for others, for each and every one of us, every single day. They're all a part of my story, and they have changed my life for the better. To make that happen, they sacrificed. I know they took risks, but just like Ruth and Boaz, when you step out for others, God takes care of the risks, and He is forever molding the greater story. At the beginning of this book, Naomi was bitter. The beginning of the book of Ruth, Naomi was bitter. She is clear about it. But through the actions of Ruth and Boaz, her heart and her joy has been restored. Who is in front of you? By her selfless actions, Ruth became a part of Naomi's story. She became a part of Boaz's, and as Ruth closes, we see that she would become a part of King David's story as well. Who is in front of you? It doesn't stop there, does it? If we turn to Matthew chapter 1, the very beginning of Matthew, we see the genealogy of another king. In Matthew chapter 1, verse 5, we will recognize some names. It says Salmon was the father of Boaz, whose mother was Rahab. Boaz was the father of Obed, whose mother was Ruth. And if we continue, verse 16, it tells us this. It says, and Jacob was the father of Joseph, the husband of Mary. And Mary was the mother of Jesus, who is called the Messiah. The Messiah. Ruth had the wonderful opportunity to become a part of the story of our King Jesus. And in many ways, Ruth became a part of each and every one of our own story as well. I ask you this: who is in front of you? Right now, who is in front of you? Be a part of their story. Let's pray. Father in heaven, God above, God, we thank you for this opportunity that we have right now. And God, we recognize there's a lot of things that we wish were not a part of our reality right now. But God, if we are honest with ourselves, we will see that we have an opportunity if we will take it. So God, we thank you for the chance to be a part of your plan, your will, your love in this world. And so God, allow us right now, through all the things that are happening around us, to have our eyes and ears and everything open, to be aware, to be interactive, to be like Boaz, and to be aggressive in seeing needs and going forward to answer them, to see who is before us, and to offer love and care and grace and encouragement and whatever is needed, God. God, I think of those right now who are lost and lonely. God, I ask that you would help each and every one of us to be aware of their needs and to aggressively bring love and care into their lives. God, may we take this opportunity now. God, I thank you. I thank you for the opportunity to be a part of other individuals' greater story. God, I pray over my children. I pray over the children of our church and community right now. God, there are so many young lives who we have the opportunity to impact. Will we accept our part in their story? And will we make the sacrifices they need to be loved and cared for and brought forward towards you? God, there are so many opportunities before us that go away from even just this situation we find ourselves in, where we can invest in people's lives. God, bless us with that opportunity. Help us as we take steps forward for you. And God, be with each and every one of us now. Give us encouragement as we take these steps forward. Give us a drive. Let us be very clear, God. Look around us. Who is in front of us? God, help us to be a part of their story. We pray this all in Jesus' name. Amen. Amen. As always, we thank you for joining with us here at North Collins Wesleyan Church. We hope this service and this time together has been a blessing to your lives. If you have a need, please reach out. Allow us to be your church family and to offer you support and love and care. May you be blessed this week. Know that you are loved. Thank you, everybody.